Hey there everybody, we're here once again to further see how the Dead by Daylight grind really is. So first off, I switched to playing Survivor so I can play the game with my wife, so we have a little bit of a different kind of grind to discuss here. Playing as a Survivor gets much different results when it comes to obtaining blood points, as the killer typically has more opportunity to gain blood points than Survivors do. However, in the Bone Chill event, Survivors do have a 1-up on the killers as they more frequently have a higher blood point boost than the killer does. So for this specific event, I've discovered that I typically get about 150 to 170,000 blood points per game as a Survivor. When I play my killer matches, it's closer to the 130 to 150,000 mark. I've got over 10 hours of recorded footage from both the killer and Survivor side of the grind here, so I'm going to be showing both of them starting with the Survivor. I'll probably omit most of the games, but if you'd like to see any of them, let me know and I can make individual videos showing a few of the especially fun games. Now, real quickly, before we get to the rest of the video, I did spend over 20 hours in total making this video, through the playing games, through the editing, through everything. So if you could leave a like, that'd be very much appreciated. Share the video, whatever. And if you could consider checking out some of my other videos and maybe consider subscribing as well, that'd be wonderful. Thank you very much. Now, there's a couple key things when playing as a Survivor that you can do to get a lot of blood points in a very short period of time. Completing generators is one, and in fact, it might be the best way of getting blood points. For this, I would recommend bringing a green or purple toolbox with charge increasing add-ons so that you can milk the toolbox effects as much as possible. If you have Streetwise or Built to Last, then I would heavily recommend using both of them, as you'll shred through the gen progress like fucking crazy. Gen rushing I've found to be most effective way to getting quick blood points. But if that's all you do, you might find yourself getting only 20,000 non-event blood points per game. Saving other survivors from hook is a really good way to get blood points, as it counts for quite a lot of points towards the altruism category. While there are perks that can make getting unhooks more effective, you don't need any of them to rack up lots of blood points, so sticking with a gen rushing build and just saving other players anytime they're hooked can get you lots of blood points. Now, if you don't have many perks unlocked, I would recommend bringing Will Make It to get additional healing points. Plus, your teammates will thank you just a little bit more. Now, I've found that getting in chases can get you some blood points, but it's definitely a much slower process than completing gens. Getting in chases is certainly a fun and key part of the game, but unfortunately there isn't much incentive blood point wise to get in chases if you can just stay on generators. However, if you're finding that it's difficult to stay on a generator due to playing against someone like the Skull Merchant, for example, it might be worthwhile to just try to bait her into a chase and allow your team to complete the generators as a means of progressing the game and not getting stuck in a cat and mouse situation. Other killers, such as Doctor or Artist, can also make gen rushing a massive pain in the ass, so if you're a good looper, I would heavily recommend keeping these killers distracted for your team.
Oh no! It's the Menace himself, Nemesis. Oh no, Dennis the Nemesis. Dennis the Nemesis.
I'm going to go over two really good builds that I've found for Survivor if you don't have any characters prestige, but of course you can alter them as necessary if you do unlock better perks. Now, while playing as Dwight, I opted for using Prove Thyself, Deja Vu, Plunderer's Instinct, and Will Make It for my gen rushing build. Without prestiging other characters, there aren't many perks that are good for gen rushing right out the gate, but this build can be quite useful if you haven't yet upgraded Nia. If you are using her instead, you could swap out Prove Thyself for Streetwise, as that'll make your toolbox last 25% longer. This effect also stacks with other Streetwise users, and gives them your bonus as well if nearby. So you can make toolboxes last up to twice as long. Now, since we're expecting to not have Built to Last quite yet, we'll use Plunderer's Instinct for the sake of getting access to new toolboxes as our current one expires. Sometimes you'll only find a brown toolbox, but that's okay. Whatever will help complete those gens as fast as possible will be well worth the wait. Now, once again, playing as Dwight, the second build we have is starting us with a flashlight of any quality and 2 batteries, preferably a green and yellow battery, as that'll increase the flashlight duration by 10 seconds. But if you don't have those, the brown battery works just fine. Now for the perks, we have Kindred, allowing us to have the vital information on the killer's whereabouts, lightweight so that we can sprint more frequently and not worry too much about the killer noticing scratch marks, no one left behind so that we can save allies that have been hooked during the end game sequence, and We'll Make It so that we can get that extra heal speed right off an unhook. This build debatably gets more blood points than the gen rushing build, and supports a more risky playstyle. This build would also work well with a med kit instead of a flashlight, with charge increasing add-ons as well. All 4 of the perks used in this build are universal perks, so you can use them on any survivor. But if you were to play as someone like Meg, if you like the chase more than saving other people, I would swap lightweight with sprint burst. And an argument can be made for using balanced landing if playing as Nia, but I would rather just use the build as is when playing as her. For some reason he didn't teleport back to this generator though, which would have been an easy hit.
I'm going out back.
Head back. What in the fuck? Oh shit! Well, me being exposed doesn't matter because I'm already injured.
25.
Fuck!
No.
He's so fast.
Now, when I'm playing the game, you'll see me using the altruism build far more than the gen rushing build, as for a new player, it does seem to get more blood points, especially during this event. I will test this further as the event ends to see if the statistic remains similar. Now, I haven't mentioned any offerings yet, but it would be wise during the event to use mistletoes rather than any other blood point offering, unless everybody in the lobby is bringing bloody party streamers, in which case I would recommend bringing that instead. Keep in mind that the mistletoes only boost blood points gained from event actions. Repairing generators counts, but being altruistic does not. So if you're using an altruism build, make sure to be throwing snow skulls at the snowman to get lots of blood points. You can farm these easily by creating an instant snowman and then abandoning it and proceeding to hit it with a snow skull. Now at this point you've probably seen a few games from me with these builds, so you may have a good idea of how it can be used already. So now I'm just going to switch to the killer side of things, where I've already gotten Wraith to Prestige 3.
That was the worst pallet drop I've ever seen. He's hiding in a corner right now. Okay, go, 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 go.
Both gates are open. You missed the hit.
Oh, you teleported.
I know, go, 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 go.
That's pretty fucking funny. You didn't get a single hook.
I didn't count how many games it took me to get Dwight to Prestige 3, but Wraith I was able to get Prestige 3 within 4 hours, and it took 19 games. This is twice as fast as I did Trapper, no doubt thanks to the Blood Feast, although I could have been a little more efficient, but there were a few games that I was just kind of fucking around with the survivors. Now while playing as Wraith, on average I got about 125,000 blood points per game, and with the addition of challenges it was probably in total around 140,000 for each game. On average, it took about 1.1 million blood points to go through a single prestige, and the entire time I played as Wraith, I used only one build except for the Adept achievement that I went for at the beginning. And I got a 4K in nearly every single game. The build I was using was Sloppy Butcher to force survivors to spend more time healing and less time doing generators. No Ed, or No One Escapes Death for those unfamiliar with the term, which allows you to down healthy survivors in one hit once the generators have been completed. Agitation, allowing me to carry survivors with 18% increased movement speed, and then finally Brutal Strength so I can spend less time destroying generators and pallets when in mid-chase. All of these perks together seem a bit random, but each perk does serve a different purpose than the other perks. But I chose each of them to save on time from doing monotonous tasks, and to allow me to more frequently begin a hunt after a chase has ended. I did end up unlocking Franklin's Demise in the Shrine of Secrets, but I didn't really use it at all as it didn't really seem complementary to the build. However, it is still currently in the shrine as of uploading this video, and it'll be there for about the next day or so. So if you like it and you don't want to spend money on getting Bubba, I would recommend spending the 2,000 shards to unlock it. It is currently the only licensed character perk in the Shrine of Secrets. For Wraith's Bell add-ons, I decided that in my final iteration of the build I would use Shadow Dance Blood, which increases action speed when cloaked by 60%, as well as Blink White to increase my cloaking speed by 60%. Again, the use of these is to increase the speed at which I can start hunting the survivors and reduce time doing things such as cloaking after getting a hook or destroying pallets mid-chase. I experimented a little bit with All-Seeing Blood to allow me to see survivor auras while cloaked within 8 meters of them, but ultimately ended up deciding to swap it out for Shadow Dance Blood, seeing survivors' auras, or as seeing survivors' auras wasn't really necessary because I was able to find the survivors quite easily anyways. and I decided not to use either of the iridescent add-ons, despite them being extremely powerful, due to the fact that without the black ward offering, which prevents loss of add-ons, I would find more than half of my games to be without them. I wanted a sense of consistency while playing as Wraith, and using iridescent add-ons is a good way to lose consistency, since they're pretty rare. Now, if you find completing specific challenges particularly difficult, it may be worth using iridescent add-ons, such as the Silent Bell. But again, I wanted to have a build that I can consistently rely on and give hard results of effectiveness. With all that said, the final offering I've decided to stick with was the Survivor Pudding. It's a good way to increase your blood points by twice as much for any non-event task. And as a killer, you're on a time frame to make sure you get as many blood points as possible before the survivors escape or you kill them. Survivors don't suffer from this time frame nearly as much, since they more or less control the pace of the game. Unless you're absolutely slaughtering them, of course. That's the reason I decided not to use mistletoes, as I felt I wasn't engaging quite as much in the event tasks, so it felt like I was wasting an offering slot a lot of the time. Now if you have bloody party streamers, as a killer, there's really never a reason to not use them, so if you have them, I would just go ahead and use them. But otherwise, I would just stick with the Survivor Pudding, unless you're making a lot of use out of the event tasks, but again, I didn't really find myself doing it that much. Now, not to brag, but I did find that I was getting a 4K in more than half of the games I played, and quite easily too. One part of the grind is making sure that each game lasts as close to 10 minutes as possible for maximum XP gain for iridescent shards, but also for blood points, as you get blood points for gens not being completed every minute they're inactive. For a Survivor, the only reason you'd want a game to last 10 minutes is for the XP, but otherwise there's no incentive to have a long-lasting game. Any game lasting longer than 10 minutes wastes a lot of time if you're going for efficiency, so you really want to try to hit that 10-minute mark as much as possible. By now, you've seen a few killer games as well, and probably know the strategy that I went with for the most part. The final stats for Dwight was that it took about 6 to 7 hours to get him to Prestige 3, although a large part of that was waiting for lobbies. And for Wraith, it only took 4 hours, with exactly 19 games to get to Prestige 3, and about 50,000 blood points left over. This brings my total game time for getting Prestige 3 on 3 characters to 21 hours, or about 18 hours if you get rid of the account for load times and sitting in the lobby. Anyways, that's all this video has for you, so if you enjoyed the video, then please leave a like, and check out my other Dead by Daylight videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.